This is Captain Chris Myers of Central Florida Sight Fishing Charters. Thanks for tuning in to another one of my instructional fishing videos. If you like what you see, please click on this icon right down here and become a subscriber. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about how much line you should put on your spinning reel. I'm talking about open face spinning reels where you flip the bail over. How much line should be put on there? And you want to put on at least enough line so that you only have 1/8 to 1/4 inch left before it overfills the spool. So this is one of my reels that I use on my charter. It's a Cadence CS8 reel. It's a workhorse of a reel, but you can see even for my charter clients, I have this thing filled up relatively full, even for people that may have zero experience whatsoever, because we're using relatively light lures, and even with light 10-pound braid, it makes a huge difference how much line you put on the spool. Here's another spool that's kind of the opposite end, and you can see the big gap here between where the braid is and where the spool is, and I've seen many people fishing with far less line than this even on their spool. When I flip this bail open and I go to make my cast, the line is still rubbing on this outside edge of the spool as it comes off. The less line you have on there, the harder and harder it rubs, the more it kills your casting distance. So we want to maximize our casting distance. We don't want to have to be casting super hard all day long and not get very far. Fill your spool up. If you check out my other videos on how to use braid, how to avoid the wind knots. Wind knots were never caused by the wind, they're caused by people reeling up their line much too loose. Now the more line we have on this spool, so the fuller this spool gets, the easier the line comes off. Great for casting. Line comes off easy. It's easy to make a whole bunch of wraps come off at once and create a knot if you're not keeping your line tight while you're making your retrieve. So keeping that line tight is crucial if you're going to have a full spool. If you're tired of dealing with the knots and you just can't seem to stop getting the knots, put a little less line on your spool. You won't almost never get a knot on a spool that's filled up like this, but I'm going to be able to cast much farther with this. So if you're not having to cast far and you're not going to have big fish that are going to pull off a lot of line, really doesn't matter how much line you're putting on there. But if you're trying to get long casting distance with the least amount of effort using light lures, fill your spool up and you'll find it's much easier